Hello, Galaxy. Chris Pirillo here for another edition of the Locker Room Daily Report, or TLDR for short. It's a daily dose of tech news and views and answers that you can use. We've, over the past couple of days, done this particular, broadcast differently. It's a part of the ongoing live stream at live.pirillo.com, which currently redirects to the Twitch channel. On Monday, we had something else going on where I was helping unbox an Elegoo Mars 3 Pro on the MakerDeck Twitch channel. And then yesterday, so I was doing that also on Monday. Cena kind of stepped up and started geeking out about his corner of the universe, and has now suggested that he wants to geek out even more about server hardware at some point in the future. So expect some deeper dives there and the actual walkthroughs, him actually kind of stepping through the hardware itself. At least that's what he had suggested before. And yesterday we had a game development conversation, which I thought was very enlightening. And today, even based upon yesterday's conversation about game development, someone came into chat and was asking Negril about that game that he was showing off. So it was really interesting to have seen that happen, even like not immediately, right? It was time shifted, but he knew that it was something he wanted to follow up with. This individual who was listening at the time but just couldn't engage with the keyboard. So today is more of a typical TLDR. We've got some tech news stacked as we had started doing this. I guess I started at least compiling it over the weekend as I was catching interesting headlines and was going to share them on screen as soon as I get that pulled up. There we go. We're going to start with this particular bit of news, which was interesting to me. And I'm joined by not just CNUP, but also Glendon. Glendon's got Hogwarts Legacy running in his window. CNUP sometimes when he's not talking might be playing retro games. He's also a fellow fan of Star Wars. But anyway, this was interesting to me because I've uploaded long form video to YouTube forever, and it was difficult, and it's always been difficult to upload long form video. Even TLDR could work functionally as a podcast in the sense that it's something that's long form, it's somewhat formulaic, it's interesting visually, absolutely. So it would work really well. It's shot live, on Twitch, and then uploaded to YouTube. So I'm kind of waiting for this particular feature to roll out on the channel where I'm archiving TLDR at this point, which is another legacy channel that's at youtube.com/Chris Pirillo Live. Again, these are like legacy handles. That may very well change, but that's where I'm uploading all the long form segments, at least at this time. I'm not sure if there's a better place to put it, because you can't put everything in one channel. That's the challenge with YouTube. So now they've got shorts, live, podcasts, and regular videos in any given channel. And this to me is just it's adding more confusion potentially to the algorithm and more confusion to creators. Like I'm even going, well, we've got this long form video. I'm thinking, where do I put it? Where are people going to see it? And I have to guess. And if I only had one channel, I'd be like, well, I don't want to, ruin that channel. I mean, if that channel was all long form video, which is by and large what the other, the channel where I'm putting this is in terms of an archive, where it's going, it was always, or seemingly the way it turned out, where I would do live video, long form live video, just to keep it separate from. At that time, I was just doing vlogs or short form, or shorter, I shouldn't say short form, shorter form video, more traditional YouTube video, which is what I'm going to try to get back to in my original channel. And basically by doing that and putting just quote unquote regular video in my channel and trying to stick to a formula at least, that means I don't want to mess around with shorts. I don't want to mess around with live. And I got to be careful with podcast. I got to be careful with all that stuff. All the stuff that YouTube says here are all the tools, but I'm afraid to use all of them in any one channel. I genuinely am. I mean, the channel that I've been running, that one at least, the legacy channel, has already had problems because of that. Because I had put this, that, and the other thing in one channel. Long formats and short formats. That hurts. So I really need YouTube to provide a lot more direction with this. I'm interested, like I said, in producing TLDR more like a podcast, that we can produce live here on Twitch, and then post, if that's how it works, and then upload it to YouTube, and then archive, and then have that be effectively the TLDR or live, podcast or interesting tech, archives, because that's I put the PSVR unboxing that we did earlier on there, or the PSVR 2 that Jay Harley did earlier. I put that, archived it on the channel because I have no other place to put long form video. Like, as much as, I would love to put it all in one channel, YouTube just does not work that way. And it's maddening. It's absolutely maddening. So I don't know. How do you feel about this,
It seems like I think it's better if it's split up too. Just exactly what you were saying there, right? With keeping it separate, right? Because you don't, I don't know. I just look at how my YouTube experience is now when I go in there and I'm getting like shorts and stuff that I don't want, and it's hard to find what I want to look at, and I'm being served up a lot of stuff that is just irrelevant to me. So it's I don't know. So I agree fully with what you're saying there. With I don't know if
Glendon?
having it all in one.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat as you both. I feel it's more of the same that they've been trying to do, and doesn't seem to be working, in my opinion. Putting it all in one place it's not the way that it should be. It needs to be broken up to where you have your shorts, you have your podcasts, you have your long videos, everything separate. That way there's not one algorithm going across 4 different concepts within one platform.
That is, in a nutshell, Glenn, I think you nailed it.
Yep.
Like, that is my problem. It's not that I can't do those types of videos. It's that if I do them in one spot, it hurts me. But conversely, if I don't do them in one spot, that hurts me. Because people said, well, I didn't see it. Well, yeah. I uploaded it to this channel. Oh, I will only subscribe to the other channel. Or I didn't know I needed to subscribe to a second channel because they only go to one place. And this is the problem we ran into years ago with the bifurcation of content type between vlogging and the tech stuff that I was doing, which again they were kind of radically different. But a lot of my legacy videos were short form live. A lot of them, if not most of them, actually in the channel were short form live. Of course, the world has kind of moved on from that as a somewhat of a format, but it was still, something that's plagued me in trying to get control and see what will and can work, not just for me, but for also the people in that channel or the people who might have subscribed to that channel over any period of time. So I hope, I continue the experiment. I'm trying a new, so TLDR, I'm hoping can be a podcast on YouTube, specifically in that channel, the channel where you may be watching this as an archive, although it's got a lot of subscribers, but it's not hitting everybody's feed because the algorithm, right? And unless I can indicate that this is a long form channel, I feel it will continue to get hurt ad infinitum. But in my vintage channel, if you will, my retro channel, the original one, I'm going to try to do weekly what's on my desk, like shot in 8K, just run and gun, live to tape, high energy, high impact, and hope for the best. Because I'm not sure I can find any other formula that's going to work for me and potentially beyond. So anyway, that's something that's important to me as a content creator, certainly. Next bit of news, 9to5 Google, and mind you, 9to5 Google has not seen an update. 9to5 Mac rolled out a new web design today, and I don't mind it. It's not bad. I think it's a little cleaner, more traditional blog like. I never really liked the 9to5, the previous this design that you currently see 9to5 Google sporting. Was never really a fan of that, so I'm glad they brought an update to it. Certainly, the Pixel Fold is going to be heavier allegedly than the Galaxy Fold 4, but has a larger battery. I think I like. And
it is under the phone category. This device.
Well, yeah, yes. I mean, yeah. You would be able to use it as a phone, but it's more like a mini tablet. I would see this as more of a mini tablet.
But when you fold it, is it still offerable? Like, is it gonna? Does it full?
Not
I
sure.
don't know anything about it. Yeah,
Not sure.
I'm just wondering if it's like in the size of a phone when it folds and then turns into a laptop or sorry, tablet when it goes.
See, given that it hasn't been released, we only know rumors.
Right.
I would suspect that's what the case would be, so that it's like, hey,
a double.
Like why would you want it to fold? You want it to fold so it fits in your pocket, right?
Yep. Now, my issue with the Pixel has been the nav bar, which is still there, so that's going to be a problem. So I don't see myself saying, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to get this. No way. And then I don't like the launcher necessarily, although that might be something that could be mitigated with relative ease. The launcher, given that this has got more of a typical or traditional looking home screen and a taskbar compared to maybe what you might find on your phone now, depending on your particular use case. I mean, the foldables are certainly interesting. This kind of thing would not get me to switch from what I am currently using, a Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, to
what would a case look like for that?
To the Pixel.
Would there be such a case?
We don't know.
We
don't know.
This a foldable case, right? If they had anything,
we don't know.
I think they're going after that market because everybody seems to be trying to dabble in that. There's rumors that even Apple is playing with that now, but because it's a neat concept, that the screen can fold, but I think they're struggling to try to find something that will take that people actually really want. You'll get, I'm not saying nobody wants this, but I don't think you're gonna see a wide range of people wanting it.
Well, you have to kind of look at whatever the current numbers are for what Samsung's doing to have any indication. I'm not saying this is kind of in 3D TV territory in terms of, oh yeah, that's kind of interesting to have. I think there is a utility to it. I am surprised, or have been surprised, by the amount of people who have come in chat and said that they have a fold or a flip. So that honestly has surprised me. I wasn't expecting that much uptake on it. But if this is what helps sell Pixel phones, I'm sure Google will be happy. I'm just not sure this is something that I could use. I think it would be interesting, certainly, to have double the screen real estate if and only if the software was optimized. That is the biggest question that I have. Is the software optimized? And I'm not sure I see any of that being answered, at least.
And how does it hold up over
like
time?
This? Well,
I think that still have the crease problem after a while, I would think.
Inevitably, these things will not last forever. I mean, nothing will, right? I would see this as a device to use,
It can last 3 years, mind you. That's pretty much the life of these things,
what,
right?
You got a flip, a fold?
If you had a fold phone, if it lasted 3 years without having, I don't know how many times that you can fold it before there's a crease problem, and I don't know if they've worked that out with this device, but it's always been a thing, right?
Yeah,
so, but
to me,
if it starts to show that wear after about 3 years, then they're probably good, because most people are upgrading after that.
I think it's something that's going to continue to be a software story for me. And I think the Pixel, I feel, has lost its way. And I've said this before. It started out as a software story, and this, to me, is not a software story. It's a hardware story. I find it, though, I will say, a little more interesting than a full-on Pixel tablet, but for different reasons. Bridging the gap between phone and tablet. And I think that's where the industry is looking for these foldables more than anything. Like, people who want a tablet, but they also want the portability of the phone. This is bridges the gap. It should theoretically be the best of both worlds. But again, if the software doesn't want to play along, or the software hasn't been optimized, I would push back. And a lot of the Android apps that I've been using on at least the Samsung Galaxy Tab S8 Ultra has been they've been I would say maybe not fully optimized, but at least in Samsung Dex, the apps feel good. When you stretch an app that was designed for a phone across a screen that might look like this, it doesn't always scale well. And I feel Google's done a decent job with allowing those apps to scale to different screen resolutions a little better than I feel Apple has done. But yeah, I'd like to see what the software can do. I'd like to see that. I have not had a foldable, flippable, what have you. I find them fascinating, but I don't know if something like this, at least today, could be a daily driver for me.
And I don't really mean to knock it too much, because
No,
if it was done well, I can see it. It could be a good, like a big thing, right?
Right.
Because in this day and age now, with inflation and everything, it's like, well, I've got a tablet and I got a phone. If it was done really well, that would kind of bridge that gap, and that you're buying one device, right? You have it folded up when you've got to have it in your pocket and you're on the go or whatever, and then, you know, when you want that extra space, larger screen to just kind of chill as a tablet somewhere, then you can. So it's got all kinds of, like, I can see where they're going with it and why it, you know, piques my interest. I haven't been impressed with what they've had out so far. So
yeah, but the reason you'd get a tablet, yes, for a bigger screen, but one of the tablet use cases is consumption, right? Because you want a bigger area for video. I can't see a video being played like this on this type of screen.
Is that the actual? Is this just kind of a concept thing, or is this going to be the actual form
I
factor?
do believe this is just that has to be a concept, because nothing that I know of, nothing and no news has
It's
come
a little
out.
wider than like two phones side by side, right?
Well,
What
it
that
looks like it's shorter than the Pixel 7 Pro there, if that's the 7 Pro.
It's just a weird form factor for me.
But it has to be if you're talking about something that folds like that, right?
Yeah, if you're wanting to still keep the phone, you know, that size, because like I said, if you fold that in half right now, it's probably going to be a bit not thickness, but height and width is going to be probably the same as that Pixel phone, and I'm sure that's what they're going for.
It's going to be a smaller phone.
It's just going to be a weird kind of tablet.
Yeah,
you know,
I wonder if it's going to have an outside screen as well.
Well, I think when you fold it, that's the outside screen. So if you flip
it would
it back,
fold the other way.
I don't know.
Two screens would fold together. I would
if the two screens fold together, it's a different story. But again, it remains to be seen.
Yeah, not sure with the information and the pics that we got.
At least somebody's trying to be innovative.
Yeah, no, I give them credit for that.
Yeah.
Just me personally, I'm just afraid of another point of failure with something.
Yeah, I wouldn't
like
be
that.
I won't be on board to buy it right away. But that was what everybody said when the like the iPad came out. I know a lot of people kind of looked at it like I ran out and got the very first iPad when it came out, and I was showing people. I'm like, I took it around work, and I'm like, this is the next big thing. This is like, everybody's going to want these. There's lots of people that just don't want anything to do with the hassle or headache of computers. They just want to be on the internet. They don't have to worry about, you know, the hassles with knowing anything techie with it at all. It wouldn't take very long to even show, you know, your grandmother or your grandfather how to use it. And a lot of people I showed when it first came out were looking like, I already got an iPhone. This is just a big phone. This is just silly or whatever. Until they started to see, right around that same time frame was when the App Store was really kicking off too, right? So like Chris says all the time, it's the software, and the software I think really did it for it that time. So what can they do software wise with this to spruce it up? Because the hardware isn't enough for me to want it.
Like I said, the Pixel is a software story, or it should be. I mean, it has been. Whether or not it continues to be, I guess that really remains to be seen, honestly. So speaking of software and hardware, this is kind of big news. Linux has released a 6.2, first mainstream Linux kernel for Apple M1 chips. So if you're running on a Mac, but you want to run Linux, big news. Really big news. Sorry, did not mean to flip there. I was trying to close tabs to make sure I didn't flip back. Yeah, that to me is, I'm not a Linux user. But it's interesting to see this development take place. I'd imagine
I take it, when they say that, that's natively too. That's not like trying to do a VM on top of.
No,
it's like booting right into it, right?
Yeah. So you could basically run Linux on an M1 powered machine, at least. So, and it's got to be zippy. It has to be on an M1, absolutely. and I'm sure that the Linux community has to love this. This is something that I caught before the weekend, actually. Like, oh, okay. Before, I think I caught it on Hacker News. This one, but not being someone who's a Linux user, being primarily Mac OS or Windows, I find that it's good, if only so that Linux runs in more places. Not as a Linux advocate, but just seeing more proliferation to allow for greater potential competition, which I'm sure Apple isn't very happy about. But it's the software, like iterative.
I mean, they may be or they may not be, because in the end, it's like, well, if you want an M1, you are buying from Apple, so they are getting that purchase, right?
Well, they're getting that
you're
purchase,
not,
but they're not getting services.
Yeah, I was just about to say that the big thing that where the cash cow, right, where they keep on milking that is where they get you on the services, right? And
yep,
you're gonna go. They don't fully lose, but when they're selling devices and that, they're thinking of like, okay, well, why are you going to Apple? A lot of times it's to do with all the services that come with it.
Well, developers have loved Mac OS for a number of years and would want to run Linux, but don't want to leave the Apple hardware behind, right? This gives them an option, at least the developers. And to your point, yeah, Apple does make that sale. Not that that's the sale they necessarily want to make, but it was a good. I feel I think it's a seemingly a win-win, but not being someone who is ready to install a distro, it's not something I want to do. Maybe years ago I might have been interested, but these days I'm like, hey, I just need something to work.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm not a Linux user, so it's not affecting me that much, but I can see where.
Well, I'm an everything user. Like I have a couple Linux boxes around here, but I would not buy a Mac to put Linux on it.
Right.
Just to me doesn't make sense. Now, having said that, it's very easy to put Linux on an old Mac that no longer supports the latest OSs of Mac. And then so if you wanted, I've been saying that a lot lately to people. If all you do is kind of browse around and maybe use your word processor and just basic computer things, you're not doing anything too big, and that it's very easy to install something like Ubuntu, and it is very and if you're used to Windows or Mac or whatever, you're not going to have too hard of a time because the applications look pretty much the same. And if you've got an older computer that it's like, well, now I can't update and upgrade anymore on with now Windows has that locked in too, right? There's only there's a cutoff of how old of a system Windows 11 can run. Now I know there's ways that you can bypass that, but if you're to stay from what Microsoft has, and same with Apple, you only have so many years, and then the OS isn't going to work anymore. But I've got lots of old hardware around here where I breathed all kinds of life into these older devices, and they run really well and very quickly, and it's a modern OS. You're getting the latest updates and everything. So it is very much an option maybe for some that just don't have the money to keep going out and buying every few years.
Well, Google also has a Chrome OS, like I don't know what they're calling it now. It was an acquisition, and they rolled it out like to officially be like a Google extension of Chrome OS, for the lack of a better way of framing it, to install Chrome OS specifically on old systems so that they're not basically useless. Right?
They should be doing that. They should be doing that to their Chrome OS and Chrome boxes and stuff. Because they have a lot of hardware out there now that's deemed useless. Like as far as you can still use it, but you're not getting updates or anything from it anymore.
I think that's how the project originally came about, was to specifically abstract the security updates from the browser, or at least the OS. It's not something that I've had a chance to install, but at least that's another option. Whether to get more life out of an older Mac, and at some point an M1 will be an older Mac. It's certainly, I don't think, going to make that cut maybe for another. I just feel like this is going to be an M1 is going to be a solid computer for the next 3 years at least.
Oh, for at least it'll be longer than that, I'm sure.
At least.
Yeah. And you're right, for the long term, for the lifespan of this older hardware, just like Sunip said, you know, that could be just a win for anybody that's got one of these machines down the road, like you just discussed. So I can see where it's a big deal.
So I popped over to another, wasn't sure where we were on that, and wasn't sure if we were winding down. And Senia, you made some really good points. This is the next article. First generation iPhone, still a shrink wrap, sold at auction for $63,000.
Mine's not shrink wrap, but I still have mine with the box and everything.
I do too.
Yeah, everyone has that. Well, not everyone, but like this was like, I mean, you want to talk about a missed opportunity, opportunity.
I would have bought them like hotcakes if I knew that. Well, I mean, if everybody did it, then no one would be paying $63,000 for it, right? But would have been nice to have one kicking around.
Still, I could, if I had, I was like, I'll just buy a couple extra, but I didn't even want the first one, let alone.
Yeah, I have to remind people sometimes too. It's like, the 3G model that came out a couple years after this one, like looks exactly the same.
Yeah, it was the first iPhone, and then 3G, and then 3GS.
Yes. A lot of people, when I talk to them, they kind of forget and they think 3G is the first one. It's like, no, it wasn't even 3G.
No.
That's what they called Edge back then, right?
Yep.
And it was mega slow.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but
you didn't want to even browse on it.
But the magic of it back then, I'll never forget.
Oh my God,
the magic of it.
Oh man.
Ever.
Like if you go,
it was amazing.
I mean, if you go and look up on YouTube and just watch the old keynote when they first showed it too, it still will just, you knew something big. Like you don't get that often when everybody sees it, everybody wants it like right now as soon as they've seen it. It's like this game changer. Sorry, BlackBerry.
Yeah, that was, I didn't want it. And so I've been eating crow ever since.
You didn't want it at the time, eh?
What's that?
You didn't want it at the time?
No. I was like, it doesn't have 3G. You can't do video. You can't do this. You can't do that. This, it doesn't have this. It doesn't have that. And then the story, as my story goes, I basically picked up the phone. Someone had it. And I was like, oh, this iPhone. Picked it up, unlocked it, swiped. I opened the weather app, swiped to the right, and that was it. It was just one swipe, and it was the first time I'd ever touched a capacitive screen. So it was, because up until that point, everything was resistive.
Yes.
Yep.
And the fluid. And remember, I am very sensitive to frame rates and fluidity.
Yeah.
And the fluidity. I was done. That was it. I'm like, oh my God, I have to have this. Oh my God, I'm getting an iPhone. I knew right as soon as I was like, oh God.
Well, I'm sold, right?
That was it. But
similar story for me. I was sworn against them. I was like, I'm not paying in. They're buying into that. It's not even 3G and Apple's ecosystem. They just no. Yeah, I used my friends for 5 minutes and I was on my way to AT&T.
Yep.
For me, because the big carriers here were not ready for it yet. Because they were different. They were running on different networks back then. They a couple of the bigger we have like what they call in Canada up here the big three, which is Rogers, Bell, and TELUS. Now they have a few other smaller ones like Fido and different ones like that, but those are the big three, and nobody was ready for it because no one was Rogers had GSM, but they weren't quite ready for it yet either. So because Rogers was the only one running on the GSM network at the time, what people were doing, including myself, is I had to find it like on eBay that someone was reselling or something and get it that way. And then it would work if I got a pay-as-you-go SIM to put in it, and it had to be Rogers. And I went like that for, it was almost not quite 2 years, but over a year and a half after it was like announced and released in the US before Canada officially had it. So yeah, I know when I had it, I was showing it to people and they're like, whoa, you have that. And it's like, how can I get one? It's like, well, I'm doing some little things here to have it. And I said, I don't have a plan, it's pay as you go. So there's some limitations with that, but I had to have it.
Those were
It was just something I wanted right away. I wasn't waiting.
But honestly, I haven't felt it, a lot of that magic left for me around the last good iPhone for me was the 5S, because that was the last one that iOS 6 was the last one that just that absolutely did it for me. And then from that point on, it was honestly the technology hasn't been the same. And the iPhone
and the original iPhone never had the App Store.
No, it did not.
It never did.
They thought, oh, just use the web, right? Which, to their credit, I mean, they weren't too far off. Yeah, I gotta say that this is the second mistake I made with the first iPhone. The first one was like saying I wasn't going to get one and like begrudgingly got one. The second mistake is not buying another one to hold on to, because I don't hold on to old tech. I really don't. Like, if there's no use for it, if there's no need for it, it's just it's gone. It's worthless. I'm not gonna hold on to it. Typically.
So who did it say in the article who actually purchased it? Like, is it going to a museum or something? Like a tech museum?
So right. I don't know if we've got the name of the person who bought it, but we do have the name of the person who sold it. Karen Green had it appraised in 2019 because it was an 8 gig, not 4. It was still in the original box. It was estimated to be worth $5,000 in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently, it really accrued in value. Like, she received the iPhone in 2007 as a gift from her friends after landing a new job. But since she had already gotten a new phone, she decided not to open it. I didn't want to get rid of my phone. I figured it's an iPhone, so it'll never go out of date. She said friends likely bought the phone for $499 to $599. So yeah, you want to talk about crazy. So
that was a pretty good investment.
So here's the thing: if Apple releases a headset for $3,000, buy 2. Keep one in the box and open the other one.
And sometimes it's not the popular thing. Sometimes it's the stuff that fell flat on its face and it's very rare.
Exactly.
Right?
Because it falls flat on its face, it's worth more. Because no one buys
and then it's like all years down the road, it's like, remember this? No. And it's like, yeah, because they're very rare. Hardly any of them ever ship.
Yep. So sometimes you have to snap that stuff up. Sometimes. It's not always. This is not investment advice. Take your own chances. But yeah, I thought that was fascinating. Man, so I'm still eating crow for that. Now, speaking of Apple, they're moving to prevent iPhone users from getting iOS 17 developer beta for free, which, surprises me it took them this long. I know some people just want to load the developer beta, and I've done it on the phone before. I stopped basically installing iPhone betas maybe a couple of years ago. I don't use it, that much. I'm not that much of an iPhone power user anymore. But I mean, you can wait for the public beta, and unless you really want to, or pay $99 or whatever it is for the developer fee. I think it's fine. I'm sure there's pushback from the people who are used to getting it for free just to get a leg up. But usually those people would have, if they're spending money, they probably got $100 to throw out anyway, just to get early access to a developer beta or a developer preview versus a public preview. So I think that was probably a smart move by Apple. They may make a few extra bucks, but I think most people are probably just as inclined to wait for the beta. Y'all, do you install beta software on your phone?
No.
Never have.
Never?
Nope. Not on my phone.
See,
now that this is company owned, right? I'm not allowed to anyway.
Oh, yeah. I've done it. I have done it. The last time I did it was on the S22 Ultra. I went from the One UI, it must have been 3 to 4. I'm like, I'd like to see the new features, and it was a mistake. And then I rolled back almost 2 days later, rolled back to 3. Had to nuke the phone and everything. So that was not fun. I'm not gonna do that again.
I don't even do beta OSs anymore. Well, like for machines that I work on, like I'll still throw it in a VM just to kind of see what the new features are and
I'm
that sort of things.
interested.
But
I've debated doing the Microsoft Fast Ring, or one of the not developer, but going to beta on the Windows machine that I run, just to see, kind of being on the edge, and nothing's really stopped me apart from what I have right now is not broken. Therefore, I don't want to mess with it. Like, last thing I want to do is introduce that kind of those kind of issues specifically in production machines. So that was a bit of news. Got a couple comments. We've had some pretty healthy comments coming in from chat. Skepta, here's the new iPhone, but with only 32 gigs of storage for only $50 more. You get 64, but wait another 100 and you get a better screen. Well, that's everybody.
Yep.
Everybody's got those upsells. Toxic Doom says, I purchased Dom Perignon P2 for my parents on the 30th wedding anniversary. 8 years later, that bottle went from $450 when I paid to $3,600. They don't want to drink it now. Moral of the story: you never know what we'll appreciate and value.
Yep.
Interesting.
Got to live your life too, though.
True.
Right. Yeah.
You gotta have everything in boxes, and it's just.
I totally agree. This one was kind of funny. Wherever you sit in the political spectrum, Bernie Sanders accidentally stumbles into a TikTok video and seems quite annoyed by it. It was actually really funny. He just like, what is going on? And he's like, look at his face. He's just like, what? Yeah. So that was pretty funny. There's not really much to say about this apart from I kind of got a chuckle. He's not.
Did he throw his arm up in the air?
He's like, no, I don't think he did. Let's see. Let's watch it again. Oops. I guess it launched. I didn't want to launch TikTok here. I wanted to play it in browser. There we go. No, he didn't throw his hand up. That was someone else throwing their hand up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's just someone else throwing their hand up.
I thought that he was scoffing at it.
Yeah.
That would have even been better.
Well, he had a scowl, right? Which is,
yeah, we got that.
He's in character, so to speak. This was posted by Negril, a developer here. Microsoft made soon ditch DirectUI and moved to XAML Win App SDK on next-gen Windows 11. So that's interesting from a developer standpoint because they've been using DirectUI for eons.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a developer, so I can't specifically speak to this, and I think Negril is here to speak to it directly. But if what this does is improve performance, then I'm all in. Absolutely all in.
Yep.
Like whatever it's going to take to improve performance, the stability of apps, the cleanliness of the UI, cohesive UX, I'm all in.
Efficiency.
Sign me up.
How about that where they have those dev boxes you can buy now that have the Snapdragon processor to try to get developers to start developing for those type of processors, right? And I always seem like when a lot of stuff anymore with Microsoft, it's like, why are you always asleep at the wheel? It takes you so long to try to jump on something, and I don't know. But you can get, for people that don't know, you can get like it looks a lot like a Mac Mini. Only it's got the Windows logo on it and it's got an older Snapdragon processor in there, and I think you can get it with different sizes of the amount of RAM that you can get in it, and that so you can tweak it a little bit. But it's mainly for developers, and because they're trying to get people to develop on that type of processor now and getting away from the x86, which is long overdue for them.
Yep.
But I don't know how much traction that they're really getting on that.
Here's the call out of the article. I highlighted it. Essentially, all this is meant to lead towards the overall Windows 11 fluent design goals and consistency. So that I'm in. Like that, just make it consistent across the board. Wherever that goes, great. But that's all I want. In any platform is just a high degree of consistency, fluidity, responsiveness. I feel like this is not too much to ask for any modern platform or application. And I typically don't like using apps or platforms that don't adhere to that. Speaking of Microsoft, they're going to be bringing Xbox PC games to NVIDIA's GeForce Now, as well as at least for 10 years, Call of Duty games to Nintendo consoles, same day as launch day for Xbox. So they're trying to do this, I'm guessing, just to get around the possibility of not being able to acquire Activision. But I feel, I mean, I know why they do what they do, right? Because they want to sell more hardware into the service. But man, I would love a utopian society where I could just buy the game and play it on any platform I want.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I wish the game was abstracted from platforms. I mean, there are rare exceptions when you have like hardware that's only on one platform or another. But conceivably, the PS5 and the Xbox. I mean, I'm not going to say they're exactly the same, but I mean, when you got your controller in the hand, apart from like difference in your buttons and location, you're playing what could potentially be the same game on another platform. There's nothing that special with
when you get
on
the
one
games
thing
that are
over
more
another.
exclusive than
Right.
the PlayStation 5, right, has those extra little features on the controller and that Xbox wouldn't, right? And so there's very small variation differences, but I would say probably 95% of the games are multi-platform, so I don't know if they really even utilize that much at all with any of the games. Just because it's like, well, for instance, like if you had Call of Duty, right, it's going to be the same, on
That's what I'm saying.
PlayStation and Xbox and your PC, right? So,
well, I like the move.
And
go ahead, Glendon.
And I'm thinking, my train of thought is exclusives are only out there to sell systems anymore.
Right.
That's the only reason that I buy a PlayStation and not just
and
a
it
single
seems
Xbox.
so slim now.
I know,
between Xbox
Well,
and PlayStation, Nintendo is its own little beast. They're doing the
right,
because like it's
well,
you're
that's
be hard
even
pressed to
dwindled,
play Super Mario on an Xbox,
because
right?
how PlayStation and Sony is now embracing the PC. You may get a game 8 to 12 months after its release instead of a release date alongside the PS5 version or the PS4 version. But
I do like what did they call it? And they may have changed the name of it, but it's like Xbox Anywhere games, right? Where if you got, like, for instance, I have like Gears of War, and I can play it on my Xbox, but then I can go over and install it on my PC as well.
Yeah, that's their Game Pass, I think, at this point. But that
I think it was called Xbox Now or something.
Yeah,
they've gone through so many.
Yeah, they've renamed it a bunch of times.
Yeah,
but it is nice. Like, it's that same concept, like you're saying there, that you buy the game and it doesn't matter where you go. Like, you own the game now, so whatever platform you want to sit in front of and play, then go ahead, right?
But if we're moving to, this is the thing, and this to me is the interesting part of this story is that Microsoft's bringing its Xbox games to play on PCs with NVIDIA, or on NVIDIA's GeForce Now. So, like, at that point, like, you don't need hardware. Like, you're just buying the subscription service, and I think that's. I mean, I know a lot of people would beg to differ, but I think for the workaday gamer, I think that's more than enough. One subscription to rule them all. It's like we have the same unbundling with television, and the same. I feel the same thing is going to need to happen with games. I really genuinely do. Like TV, I don't think of TV anymore as the hardware.
No.
TV is like a streaming service that I can watch on my phone, on my computer, on my TV, I abstract the content from the hardware. And I think the same thing is going to happen, despite all the pushback we hear from everybody. I think the same thing is going to happen eventually, maybe not in 5 years, but I think within 10. When we've got, we're just tilting into 5G and proliferation by then, 6G, and we've actually got a story on that coming up. We're going to have bandwidth, and then it's going to be a question of, well, what are you going to do with it? And gaming is what I think is going to, that's the answer to the question, what are you going to do with it? Gaming will be a great driver for it. But for that to happen, you have to have robust services that you can buy into without getting, quote unquote, nickeled and dimed, right? So, yeah, that's,
to me, on this story, the bigger takeaway is the partnership that Nintendo and Microsoft are slowly starting to develop even more. I think this is just another stepping stone. And before too long, it may not be this iteration of the Switch. It could be on the next version, whatever that may be. But I have a feeling that we're going to see Game Pass on a Nintendo console before it's over with.
Well, think about it. Xbox doesn't really have that. I mean, there's the
Right.
not the Steam box, right? But that's Steam, obviously, not Microsoft. So yeah, you may not be too far off with that prognostication at all. That would, I tell you what, that would probably sell a hell of a lot of Switches, a lot, adding immense value.
The
to
money's
Switches.
Where the services are nowadays,
Absolutely.
Right?
The
Like,
money
they
is in
lose
the
money
service.
on yeah, I haven't heard about the the latest consoles, but I assume they're probably still losing money on them.
They are. They're losing money still.
Yep. They're
And
just
Microsoft
trying to get
is
it in your
making money
hands so
hand
that
over fist with Game Pass. Game Pass, sorry.
Subscriptions.
Yep.
That's critical.
But that's not a bad thing either, though, right? Like how often when you get a subscription, then you've just got all of a sudden now you have all these games to choose from, right?
I love it. I use it. I subscribe to it. Game Pass Ultimate. I have it that way. It's on my Xbox and my PC, and I get all first-party games day one.
See, I haven't signed up. I probably need to now that we got this kind of thing going.
Yep.
And that way when there is a game launch, we can all kind of coordinate and play the game on stream together. As long as I can play it within my browser, I'm good. Like, that to me, and I don't know if Game Pass necessarily extends to the browser for that. I think it's largely either PC
No, you still have to install.
So I'd have to use it on the, which is fine. I have it. It's just a different kind of live streaming setup for me. But I'll do it. I mean, what's the next launch? What's the next big one? You don't have to tell me right now. Just curious. Here's the next story.
I'm not sure if Jedi Fallen Order or Survivor is a day one on Game Pass or not, but I would say not since it's EA.
I was just looking at chat there, Mike saying instead of buying a console, I moved to my old computer over to the TV. It works much better than a console. Game Pass is amazing on it.
Yeah.
So he's not even caring anymore about getting any of these latest consoles, right?
Yeah, just using the PC.
There you go.
But see, I think by extension, that's got to move to the Mac. It has to.
Yeah, that you know what? That's probably what's going to make Mac gaming become a player in there, right?
Yep. I agree,
not surprise
100%.
me. It would not surprise me if Microsoft basically released an Xbox app for the Mac. It makes sense. I mean, what does it matter?
Just Mac. I think Mac needs to. Yeah, if they can get the games that you can play on these other consoles, right, with the Mac and it, then it'll be just as another good option, right? I was just thinking, what is it that the Apple Arcade right now is? It's like it's really tailored to like if you like mobile gaming, and there's tons of people that do like that, right?
Well, Epic's got a launcher, Steam's got a launcher that I know of for the Mac. Not all the games play on it, but that's where again, if you've got
not a lot of games run on
if you've got basically Microsoft saying, okay, Xbox is now available natively on the Mac through the Xbox app. I mean, you're going to see I will say this, you'll probably see a lot more casual gamers on the Mac. I'd be much more inclined to install games on the Mac than the PC, believe it or not. As weird as that sounds. And maybe it's because I haven't built a gaming PC, a rig, everything is just set up specifically for streaming primarily. I could game on it certainly, but not. And
the remote play technology is just going to keep getting better and better. It's just
that's
Stadia was a little bit ahead of its time, and they didn't do well with. There were a lot of reasons why Stadia failed, but like that technology is pretty impressive for what it is today. I know it's still not comparable yet to having your Xbox in front of you or playing on your PC directly or whatever, but what you do get from that type of play, it's basically running in a VM in a data center somewhere, and you're running off their hardware and it's streaming down to you. That's only, looking at where we're going to be in the next even 5 years for like what the options of bandwidth is, a lot more people, it's going to start reaching a lot more people that are able to do those sort of things.
Yep.
So it's infrastructure, I think, that's holding it back right now than anything.
And that's
technology is here. It's just the infrastructure is not there yet for everyone.
And when that happens, the Mac becomes just as viable as a.
It'll be anything at that point.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Anything that you can stream on.
But they know it's happening. Microsoft sees the writing on the wall. Otherwise, they wouldn't be investing.
Oh, and they love it too, right? Because like any of the we've always had, like, it's less now, but there's still like the pirating issue problems and stuff like that, and hacking and console and all that. But I mean, if you're paying into a service now and you get all kinds of games, and people won't be interested in that, and they also won't be interested in buying, another console that is another $800 Canadian or more, right? So yeah, like having played around with that quite a bit, and having had Stadia and that, I was just, when I was playing it, it was just like, man, it's all that it is. Like the technology's here. It's just that the infrastructure is not here yet to reach everyone. So it's just a little ahead of its time right now. But that is the ultimate way of where they're going to go with it. And then it'll just be a streaming service. Yep. You'll have your Netflix of gaming, right? So pick your streaming service, and this is all the games you'll get. But they'll probably have it. The services will do what the consoles are doing too, though, right? Because I'm sure they'll lock in with certain developers, right, and companies, so that they have exclusives on one and not the other, right? Because that's what makes streaming TV competitive right now, right? Like, I'm not going to be able to watch like Stranger Things on like Apple Plus or something like that, right? So it's coming. It's
I totally do not disagree. Glendon, anything else before the next one?
Nope. Go right ahead.
I wanted to make sure because these are great topics to dive into. These are just news articles over the past few days.
Talk about them forever too.
Yeah, I know that we've seen it. That's the idea, is that we can and we will.
Yeah, we can.
We have the power. Apple's popularity with Gen Z poses challenges for Android. This is interesting because it's cultural, right? And largely in the US.
Right.
Those born after 1996. Originally, when the link that I have on Tech News or on the Discord server is out of date, so I had to scroll the homepage or front page where I found it on Mac Rumors. Those born after 1996, also known as Gen Z, composed 34% of all iPhone owners in the US, compared to just 10% for Samsung. Like, this is just it's a dramatic shift. So it's cultural. Like, you don't want to show up as the green bubble. So therefore, your friends get an iPhone. Therefore, you're going to get an iPhone. Now, I have not had that conversation with Jedi yet because we are not there. And that I'm sure is going to be a battle and a half. And the answer is going to be, oh, you want an iPhone? You can save up for it then. You can, if that's what you want, then you can earn it. If that's what you want.
So they're saying that the Gen Zs, that's the phone of choice.
That is the phone of choice.
34% market share.
Which is,
and anybody above that, it's either or at that point. But they're saying pretty much, if you're a Gen Zer, you have no interest in anything but an iPhone.
I've got a 14-year-old and my son's just now 21, and both refuse to own anything other than an iPhone.
They've locked so much into their brand with that. I don't know if when will they ever change the name of iPhone?
They won't.
I don't think they can.
My bigger fear is that when because she's 8 now, so I can't imagine her getting one for, like, I think 12, 13.
That's when my daughter got hers, was when she was 12.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, 12 or 13. So I'm hoping 4 years from now, the iPhone would be good enough for me to use, right? There'd be I wouldn't be running into the same nightmarish scenarios with not just the photo output, but the software performance. If in 4 years iOS is still in the sad, pathetic state that it's been in, it's because if she moves to an iPhone, right, then she's. I mean, granted, I feel we would skate towards the middle for messaging. I mean, that's why a lot of people use WhatsApp, right? You can abstract from any carrier, any any vertical. So we can still, I'm sure, text back and forth using whichever service. I mean, I do that anyway. Some people text me. Some people use this messenger service or that messenger service. I use Discord. So, I think with her moving from, if she decides to do that, it's not going to, I don't think it's going to be that much of a hurdle. Because I can still manage it, using the screen time and all that stuff as a parent, which I would do. I do that with her iPad anyway. But that'll be an interesting conversation to have, to say the least, when it comes down to it. Jar Sauce Binks says they're post-tech. They want to be able to not think about extended capabilities and customizations. They want something that works like a toaster. They don't want a custom toaster. We just want toast. Yeah, and it makes sense. I mean, I don't think a lot of people have the same sensitivities to software performance as I do. I'm confident they don't. I'm confident they don't see things the same way.
Yep.
The same way I do.
I know they don't, because my wife is proof of it. My son is proof. My daughter's proof. And I was like, can't you see that? And they're like, no, what are you talking about?
Yep.
Like when you're scrolling and you get the judder. Nope.
I can't deal with it. And then when I don't know, dude. It would be so hard.
The reason I moved back into the Apple ecosystem is because I had 3 family members that already had it. That's
what I'm saying. That is my big, I will be honest. It is my biggest concern. It's seriously,
because I wanted to be able to FaceTime, and I wanted to be able to have iMessage with them.
Right.
In group messages. And we couldn't easily do that at the time.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, you've got Facebook Messengers cross-platform. Right. You've got WhatsApp to a certain degree.
They don't care about that. They don't care about it. They want the blue bubbles.
Well, here's what I told the people that wanted to talk to me. I'm like, if you care about talking to me, here's how you're gonna do it. Like, do not text me. Like, it's not. I mean, you can. I mean, it's easier now that Google Messages has a web conduit. Right. I didn't like being texted before. Until Google rolled out the messages for the web, I was like, do not text me. I'll see it, but I may not respond. Do not text me. If you want to get a hold of me, use something else. I don't want to manage an address book. I'm done with that. I don't care about bubble color. It's irrelevant to me. And if you want to talk to me, here's how you can do it. Because I have to use things cross-platform. I have to get to things from a variety of places, and you can't do that when you're locked into Apple's ecosystem. You cannot at all. So, yeah, we'll see.
The more you entrench yourself into it, the
That's
harder
what I'm
it
saying.
is to
Like,
pull away.
I am deep into it now.
You got yourself a Mac, an iPad, and an iPhone, and a watch.
But Jedi she's got an iPad. She basically, because I had the iPad, I bought the iPad to use for Intel work. Because it was just easier to use, and then I didn't like the iOS software update last year. It really, the software wasn't great to begin with, but they changed some things that made it even more unusable for me, which was disappointing. But I said I can't do this, and then I saw the Tab S8 Ultra. I'm like, I'm using this. It's so much easier. It's faster. It's better for a tablet experience, and I couldn't use an iPad at that point. The way that she, I'm trying to do it with her is show her. She's got the iPad, but I also gave her the old OneNote 7 Pro, like, to let her play with that. So she's getting a little bit of experience in both, right? So that she's not just only used to one thing over another. And at some point, and I don't know how the hell this is going to happen, but, when she really wants to play and tinker, I'll just, pick up or get a laptop or whatever. I'm like, all right, have at it. Put her on, her own VLAN on the network, and keep an eye on it, because I would, there's no way in hell I'd put that on the network, because kids, they do the darndest things. So I would want her to potentially play with Windows, right, and then potentially play with Mac OS. Diana's a different story. Diana, she's older, and she has a tendency, like a lot of people, where she uses the phone, but like, she uses the phone. Like, there's no organization whatsoever. That's her style. Like, it's just there. right? It's just a phone to be used and icons are everywhere. And she had that. The problem was she would do that on a computer. So like there was no rhyme or reason as to what went where it was, what file was there, how to get to it. It was a mess. It was an absolute catastrophe and a half. So she's on a Chromebook, and I have a feeling Jedi's now used to Chrome OS. So I have a feeling Jedi's first computer, if not just because of school, is going to be a Chrome OS device, or Chrome OS, a Chromebook by default. Just that's because what they're using in schools. Don't know what it's going to be other than that. So, but not an iPhone. I'm like I will reluctantly say if you want one,
say
you pay
that
for it.
now.
If you want,
I got my wife one Android phone, and she said, "If you ever get me a phone like this again."
Which one'd you get her?
It was the Note 9. We both had one.
Yeah, 9 was okay.
Yeah,
9
but she
okay.
was like,
to be honest, like if I pick up an Android, not that I'm extremely lost, but I'm a little lost because my dad he gets all the Samsung phones, but when he finally went and got a phone, that's what he ended up with, so he knows it, right, to what he uses on it. But he'll come to me sometimes, well, how do you turn this off or whatever? And I just look like I'm like the dumbest person. I'm like, well, I know how to do it on the iPhone.
Right.
So I'm always taking me a few minutes to try to like some of these other settings. It just takes a few
more minutes to figure it out.
So that's another reason why I just don't want to kind of go off of iPhone. And you know what? All those things that you say that are really annoying and that. So like for me, I don't use the phone a lot. Like it's when, if it's a work device for me as far as contacting me, when I'm not in front of the computer and it's not during work hours, right? So the most I'll do on it sometimes is I might pick it up if I'm not close to my tablet or something laying in bed to check some news or something like that. But that's, other than that, it's just like, some texts that go back and forth and that. So I'm not really a good, like, to be able to say, yeah, what one is better than the other. But I do know, even for me, like just sometimes anytime I get an Android thrown in front of me and there's questions asked about it, I'm like, oh, give me a minute. I got to figure out where this is now. So I'm thinking other people that, whatever you started with, it would be very hard to try to jump over with.
So yeah, and my dad has asked the same question because he reluctantly even got an iPhone back in the day, right? And I knew it would be good for him even back then. I was like, yeah, no, I just trust it, right? I'm fine with handing it over because I trust it. Not to say that Android's any better or any worse, or any flavor of Android, right? But like with Diana, I said we got to get off the iPhone. I need to move you to a Pixel. The reason I moved her to a Pixel is because at the time, the way that she was taking pictures, and she would take 70,000 pictures of this. She would take she'd sit there and like tap the thing a billion times and have 74 pictures of the same thing. I'm like, you're costing us storage, dude. You can't do that. And Google offered unlimited. She still does that, and I told her not to do it. But that's the problem, is we got to pay for extra storage. Don't do that. You're wasting. That costs us. Like there's no such thing as free storage anymore.
No.
Yep.
So it's that's legacy. But that's the reason and it was seamless for her. She felt like it was snappier. She got used to it pretty quickly. It wasn't that big of a leap. At least the Pixel, from the iPhone. We'd been from on the iPhones and then moved over to the
I
the
don't
Pixels.
think I could ever get Lisa off of her iPhone either.
What's that?
I don't think my partner Lisa, I don't think I could ever get her off of her iPhone either. There's no way I could pry that away and say, here.
Well, like I said, it just depends on what you're accustomed to in your use case. But it's just,
and also your level of tech savviness with it. Like some people are just
I wouldn't
really
even go that far.
No.
Because it isn't even that. Like Diana's not tech savvy, and she knows her way around the Pixel. Like the Pixel, and it was that, not Samsung, because it was just a better. I didn't have to worry about third-party software. It was the Google ecosystem. She was already using Google this, that, and the other thing. So it added up. It made a lot more sense. So I'd be inclined, if anything, that for me, I'm not necessarily going to be a Pixel user. I'll be an Android user at this point and use the iPhone for the camera. camera, right? That's what I'm using
Right.
for a camera on this particular broadcast. But this at the same time, I would feel better about getting Jedi a Pixel than I would be getting her an iPhone for the same reason. That it'd be something that is a little more manageable, certainly a lot more affordable, and good enough certainly for her, despite all the green bubble nonsense.
Diane is reaching out to you. She's got a couple things there in chat, Chris.
Tech savage. Yes, I am very tech savvy.
No, she said, yes, I am very
Yeah.
tech savvy.
She said
She's
tech
a tech
savage.
Tech savage. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't say Diana's tech savvy, but I will say that to her credit, she picked up the Pixel very quickly. So it's a matter of mindset, not necessarily it's different. It really like I think within a maybe not even a day, it wasn't that big of a leap, for her to be able to pick it up. And it would make a Pixel would make a lot more sense, especially in conjunction with a Chrome OS device or a Pixel, Chrome OS device, right?
Mhm.
In conjunction with the Pixel, because you've got the native functionality and the crossover there, at least with Android. So it would make more sense at this point, and honestly, for a lot of kids their age, if they're using a Chromebook for school, which most of them will be. To have something, and whether it's an Android device or specifically a Pixel, if they're still producing them at that time.
That's what my daughter uses. That's her first computer.
Yeah,
We bought her was a Chromebook because that's what they use in school.
I feel like with Chromebooks, not to go too far off topic with this, but I feel like they're playing the long game here. It's like get them as cheap as you can and get them into the schools so that's what kids are used to, so that when they get older and that they continue to want to use that, right? And I think that's like to me it feels like Google's playing the long game with that, right? So that down the road it'll compete even more, right?
Most of the stuff's on the web, right? Most of your data's on the web, so a Chromebook is more than enough computer for most people. More than enough.
Yeah, it just depends on what your needs are, right?
Well, most people's needs.
A lot of people, if they're jumping on their laptop or tablet or whatever, and the first thing they open is their web browsers, and that's where they live, then Chromebook.
I'm telling you, 99% of what I do is using it on the. I mean, I've got more complex setups here because I've got to record a video here, or stream it this way, or manage this and that and the other, edit video, do this, like doing heavy crunching. But like for most people, all they need is effectively a web browser anymore. For most, I would say, even for messaging. So maybe at that point, and I don't know if this is even in the cards, but Apple will and whether I maybe get forced to open up message or iMessages to multiple platforms. They may get forced by the EU. In fact, I think there's something that Scuttlebutt suggesting that may happen. I mean, look what happened with USB-C. Like you can't count on companies to define standards, right? You've got to. Sometimes governments have to intervene, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't have things like seatbelts. Car companies aren't going to make that move. So, if we just leave it to Apple's, own devices, I believe if this continues, Apple's going to be forced to open up iMessage. And then that's it. So like, here's how they could play it, right? Yes, you can access iMessage on any platform, but they're going to have to sell something else in and around that in order to use maybe a certain, I don't know if it would, how it would come down to it, but maybe certain features could only happen on an iPhone, right? Like payment, but although they'd be smart to open that up cross-platform too. I mean, they'd be stupid not to, because that's money. They're just losing out on money in services, specifically in microtransactions. So I think that it was a smart and a shrewd move before. I'm not sure if it's as smart anymore. Apple's going to make its money in services. So so messages comes free on the iPhone, but if you want to use messages outside of that, you can pay $5 a month or whatever it happens to be. I'd pay.
Yeah.
I'll say it. I'd pay. Absolutely, I'd pay $5 a month for that.
Do you think FaceTime goes with it?
What's that?
Do you think that FaceTime would go with it? Because the two go together, in my opinion.
Look at it. FaceTime already works on Android.
Right.
By way of the web. You can FaceTime now by way of the web. I don't know anybody. I mean, I don't. If someone calls me now, it's like, okay, they call me on Discord or a messenger. No one really uses Google Duo or Google Meet for that. I know that Google wanted them to, but I guess on the average, it doesn't. When I need to video call, it's not that. I tend to go to the middle ground platform. Very rarely, if ever, do I use FaceTime. I'm not, and I know I'm maybe an exception to the rule. But the thing is FaceTime's not the only video chatting service. So that's the thing. It doesn't have monopoly on. This is the only way to video chat.
Again, my wife and kids would tell you different.
Well, if well, thank goodness they never need to talk to me.
Right. Yeah. Don't try to call Chris.
Don't ever.
Maybe popular like to that level, but you don't see anybody FaceTiming much in the corporate worlds like there.
No, of course not. No, and that's not what I was talking about. I was thinking it's more for the casual user.
Yeah. And that's the market for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's the next bit of news. I mentioned the 6G news coming up. I'd stack this. GSM Arena reports South Korea expects to be the first to launch a 6G network in 2028. 6G.
We haven't even got 5G fully rolled out yet.
That's what I'm saying. I'm hoping by then 5G will be solid enough. I do have dead spots in at times, but not like massive dead spots.
I wonder what because with 5G they've got to put so many more antennas out now in order to keep the speed, right? Because the higher the frequency, the harder it is to like penetrate walls and trees and whatever else, and it also doesn't carry as far.
Mm-hmm.
So
like with 5G already, they're looking, they actually hide antennas in lampposts and stuff like that as a repeater, right? So I wonder what 6G is all about.
Well, it's
gonna have to start putting an antenna on everybody's house.
I'd only imagine it's going to push bandwidth. 5G, basically was a force multiplier over 4G. Then I can only imagine 6G. I'm not a wireless aficionado, so I couldn't tell you the speeds. Although here, if I scroll down, 6G theoretical speeds can go up to 1 terabyte. So, so this is 2028. So like I said, within 10 years, imagine we have 6G proliferating and 1 terabyte speeds. Like, what we're doing now is just going to be like, what? Wired?
Yeah.
What? How did you?
Yeah, it's like these two technologies, right? Like here they've laid the fiber everywhere now, right? So in your house you got fiber, and they've only scratched the surface with that. But yet with Wi-Fi, like everybody keeps thinking, well, that's the wired is going to keep you way ahead of the game. But when you see things like 6G and that, I'm just wondering what will win out down the road. Wireless probably because of not having to deal with the actual physical infrastructure laid down, where there's backhoe breaks this connection and that connection. So I don't know. I wonder where we'll be. Like if wired connections will start to become like, we'll be so reliant on the wireless stuff.
Yeah, wired connections I think are going to go. I mean, apart from critical factors, I think that's just going to. I think they're going to slowly disappear if they haven't been already. Everything's gone wireless. Everything. And electricity eventually will too. Maybe not in our lifetime in
Right.
proliferation.
But with all our electric cars and everything like that,
Right.
like everything's going to be reporting back.
Yep.
That they'll make intersections even more safer. They already are, right? They have the little cameras now. They don't do what they used to do, where older parts of town and stuff like that. But you'll see, like, a lot of people at first were paranoid, right? Like, why is it every time you come to an intersection now there's cameras everywhere? Well, they're the cameras that actually look at the car. Okay, there's a vehicle that's waiting to do a left turn, so it will do its kind of thing, right? And then allow for a signal to go for to let the cars go and turn left or whatever. But it used to be the car would go over and it was just a metal magnet type of sensor, right? So it's a lot cheaper to do a camera up there than it is to whenever they have to dig up the road and resurface the road and relay all that down, right? So but I just think, like, your cars and everything like that will be connected because wireless will be everywhere. So
Well, literally, I mean, that's what it's. I think it's gonna be a given. Like
Mhm.
that I think it's happening now, and it's just gonna happen faster and faster and faster. I mean, to the point where up and until maybe a few weeks ago, when we finally upgraded to the 2 gig internet speeds, and by the way, I misspoke when I said terabyte. It was TB capitalized in the title on the article, so I read that as terabyte. I would have read it as terabit if it was a lowercase b. So I'm not blaming the editor, but to my credit, I would have said terabit. So having upgraded previously, if I ran, let me run a speed test here. If I ran a speed test right now, I bet I can get 300 down, maybe 10 up on my 5G connection. So that would have rivaled the wireless speeds that I was able to get here on my previous connection. It would have been fantastically faster. In many ways, 5G was faster than Wi-Fi up and until that point. In some cases, depending on in the house and what's going on, it is faster and it continues to be faster. So I expect those wireless speeds to get to the point where they're quote unquote faster than Wi-Fi, if you will, or being on that home network. They're starting to blend, right? So instead of connecting your device to your home network, you just connect it to your ISP, whatever your ISP is, in that your mobile service provider, right? And you're connected to that, which is going to introduce a whole wealth of problems. If you don't, I mean, I'd rather control all that, but I wouldn't be surprised if that doesn't happen sooner rather than later.
Think of all the. I'm just thinking of on the ISP end of it. It's like, oh man, we're not even done rolling it, 5G, and they're going to want 6G because devices are going to come in and people are going to want it. So,
but that's technology. I mean, like 6E is out there now, and some devices have 6E, but Wi-Fi 7 set to be ratified this year. So, like 7, I think is going to be a big push for a lot of people. Like it's going to be bigger than the 6E.
6 was huge just for power savings, right?
Yep.
Like it cut the network chatter down big time from Wi-Fi 5.
Yep.
Which was known formerly as AC, right? And then 6 is AX. But yeah, if you look at the white papers on the difference in technologies, and it's just way more efficient, way better at even meshing than it did with Wi-Fi 5. So I'm interested to see what they're going to bring with Wi-Fi 7 when it comes out.
Then the problem is I have different devices that only have, and I don't have alternatives for those devices, and they're legacy, right? They're just like some of them are still they're just going to be Wi-Fi 5. It was cheaper. It's what worked.
Oh, I know. That's the thing, that there wasn't even right now. There hasn't been that. Like I'm all Wi-Fi 6 in the house here, and I've been for quite a while, and I think it's really only Lisa's using it because she's got a couple of newer iPads and stuff that actually utilize it. But all of my wireless stuff and everything is like using way older stuff. So it's not as big a push for me to run out and get 7 when it comes out.
Right.
I'm not even utilizing 6 yet.
Next one, this is hit the airwaves. And just so Mike knows, we covered the YouTube CEO stepping down last week. But Apple's hitting major milestones in moonshot to bring non-invasive blood glucose monitoring to Apple Watch. That's huge. Like with diabetes, like that is huge. I mean, we thought, it's not, to me, I feel that calling this a watch, just like calling it a phone, doesn't do it justice. Right? It is a health monitoring device. Now that does not, no one's gonna wear iHealth, right? They won't, right? I don't think it's going to be called something apart from the Apple Watch, because that's the framework we might have for one of these wearables, right? Mm-hmm. Or maybe it is going to be called eyewear. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to go with, but like at some point, it's no longer a watch.
Hopefully, the accuracy is really good on that.
That's what I'm saying.
Me being diabetic, and no, like I'm type 2 diabetic, so I don't have to test as often. My blood sugars are pretty good now, so there's days that I don't even need to really check too much if I'm keeping to what I'm eating with my plan and on my meds and everything like that. So it's good that way. Now, as it progresses, as I get older and stuff like that, you know, I may have to start monitoring more tightly and all that. But the nice thing with this is that, you know, you're only as good when you're a diabetic going and pricking your finger and seeing where you're at with this. But, you know, if you have that at all times and it's like, okay, I look at my watch, I'm like, okay, this is where I'm at right now. The sugar's a little high and all that. So that right there, that information could tell you right. It's like, okay, that's going to determine what portions I'm going to eat right now, and that, and diabetics will be a lot healthier with something that they can be monitoring, you know, that
all the time.
often. Now they do have those patch things with that has a little needle that goes under the skin a little bit, and the patch stays on. I think they're good for a half a month or so, but they're extremely expensive. And you know, but is very good for anybody that's like a type 1, right? So where
Yeah,
they're
my
really
nephew has one of those.
yeah, but so they'll take it and scan it. But if they can get this technology where it's very accurate and look at your watch all the time, I'd love that.
See, that's the race. I think for me, when I see these, it's a race of how many sensors can you put on there and how well do they work. And I'm wearing a Samsung watch because, you know, and it honestly, it doesn't pair any better with the Samsung phone than it does with the with the Pixel. Diana doesn't. She doesn't really. Hang on. I'm gonna go see if Diana's still listening. I'm gonna go see if it's on the nightstand charging.
Yeah, I mean, whoever, and like Chris was saying, there's obviously a race going on. Whoever can get that kind of thing developed, and Apple could very well get there first with it. And I know every time you see a new generation of the watch come out with Apple, that they have a whole section talking about health, right? So
I've thought about.
I bet they'll make the race, because I'm sure they're putting hordes of money into that to try to get there first.
I've thought about. I had briefly, because I mean I'm on the Samsung watch now, the Watch 5 Pro. I mean it works. It's seamless enough. I mean but my primary use case is looking at the time, looking at how many steps I've made. You know, seeing the you know, my heart rate and the battery life and calendar. But I briefly, even on Android, tried an Apple Watch. It's like, well, I wonder, because I've got the iPhone here and I'm always synchronizing. I would have to then buy like an LTE service with it, if only to have all that data up to date, if only for the sensors, right? If only for but it didn't make any sense. It was like, yeah, the software's just not there. The synchronization's just not there. The information's just not there. It was too much of a quote unquote disconnect. But it's a sensors race, right? How many sensors can you pack in there? What you know? How well do they work? How accurate are they? Samsung's, it's okay. I don't know if I can necessarily make a direct comparison against an Apple Watch. I'm not a watch aficionado. I know that there's what is it? TicWatch. The TicWatch. Apparently, a new TicWatch is on the horizon with other sensors as well. So I'll be watching that very carefully. That's another Android watch, or at least it will be. It'll be running Wear OS when it's released, and I'll be watching that too, if only to see, well, what sensors does it have? You know, is it something that's going to be able to help?
I like the app. Again, talking about software here, right? But I like all of the applications that are out for like monitoring like a loved one, right? So children that have like diabetes or whatever, it's very hard to monitor them. But I know with some of the other extra stuff that's out there, and knowing you know, people that are in my extended family and that where they're monitoring their child with what they have today, but this would be like a huge thing as well. It's like, well, just get them an Apple Watch and it will give reports, and it's like, yeah, your child's getting too high right now or whatever. And
we got one for Jedi, actually, an LTE version for Jedi to wear when she was at school, and it just didn't work. Like whatever we tried to do, it just didn't work. Even having it on a plan, because we're not going to have, I mean, it'd be overkill to get her a phone plan at this point. Just absolute overkill. No way we're going to spend that money. But we went through it with the carrier over and over and over again. Could not get it to work. Like it just she could make calls, but she couldn't receive them. It was just weird. Like how everything,
rather than being tethered to a phone, you're saying just the actual
the watch.
Yeah,
and I was fine with that, if only for. And we tried it again with the Samsung watch and had similar issues. So I don't know, if only for tracking purposes, knowing where she is, right? Not
Well,
necessarily
it's a hard thing because I don't know if people know this too much, but the iron in your blood acts as an insulator, like to Wi-Fi signals. That's why when you take your phone and you start covering it where you can actually see the bars go down. So you have that same sort of problem when you're actually wearing a watch, right? Depending on where the antenna is, if it's got to penetrate through the skin and go through there anywhere, and it's got to do with if I remember right, it's the iron in your blood. See, I've just doing this to my phone over where the antennas are. I've already dropped 2 bars and it's full bars, right? So
don't touch your phone.
Yeah.
Stop
well,
touching
I'm talking about, like, when they have it for, as a watch, right?
Right.
So I can see why they can have a little bit of problems with signal. If that
Well, it wasn't the signal. It wasn't signal. It was service. Signal was fine. It was the service.
Oh, okay.
Spotify's launching DJ, new feature offering personalized music with AI-powered commentary. And what's interesting is it's apparently very, very like realistic sounding. So like you've got a playlist built, and you know how a DJ was like, coming up next, They Might Be Giants, released this in 1997, climbed the charts, blah, 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 blah. That. So those kind of like the filler between the songs, basically a virtual DJ, which is rather
That's
interesting
pretty cool.
Yeah, like, I know there are a lot of Spotify users out there. That's their primary service. Yeah, that was, to me, very, very interesting. Like, wow, unbelievable.
So the AI is going to try to give that personality, really, right?
It's going to eat the world. AI is going to eat the world. By the way, thank you, Juniper. Juniper Breeze just subscribed. Very appreciated. Thank you. Appreciate the faith on this 24/7 experiment. The live Locker Room Arcade 24/7 geek out in the middle of TLDR. So yeah, that's the latest AI news that I thought was relevant to a lot of people. The virtual DJ that's stunningly realistic with a stunningly realistic voice.
I'm just for being in the line of the company that I'm with. One of the lines of business actually runs a call center in it, and I'm just thinking, how long do those people have a job, right? Like they already have the AI chats going, right? So there's a lot. Right. So it filters a lot. If they go to one of our, looking to purchase a product online on one of our websites, right? Then it will, you're not talking to somebody directly, right? You know that when you actually open the chat, because they'll actually tell you, right? Like it'll start to ask you a few questions and then it'll say, hold on, I'm getting an agent for that. But I'm just wondering, when will it get to the point where it's so good that they won't really need the call center people, and you'll be actually just talking to AI, right? To deal with whatever it is you're calling the call center for.
ChatGPT. I mean, like, honestly, that's not to say that's the end all be all, but like that, Samsung's going to be.
I see a lot more jobs. It's a digital disruption, as they call it, right?
Yep.
Yeah. This is a huge disruptor right here.
Well, Samsung, with their Bixby service, and they may end up having to rebrand that, which would be good news. It can currently do kind of what the Pixel can do, where it can answer the call for you. So if you call, like, I can answer in text without actually answering the phone, or say, hey, who is this? And now it has the capability of actually answering the phone and allowing you to type and interact with the person without actually picking up the phone, which is interesting. And with training, do it sounding like you. So no, I'm serious. That's
I know. It's there. It's there. That's not
soon.
The chuckle was because of how, pinch yourself. This is real. It's going to happen.
Yeah. So I can't wait to test that. That's something that's going to be rolling out at some point in the near future. Samsung. I think Samsung now, because the AI push is going to be, you're going to be hearing, I feel, a lot more about Bixby than you did before. Bixby before was kind of like, well, Apple's got Siri, that's garbage. Google's got, the Google Assistant, and that's pretty good. Now Samsung had Bixby, which is, for all intents and purposes, was basically, you didn't need it because, like, well, Google Assistant, like, it's and it's better. So Bixby, I think, is going to basically evolve, at least for Samsung devices, maybe even beyond, to do a heck of a lot more AI work on the devices. So I feel like the next Samsung flagship, or this flagship, like the S24 Ultra,
Mhm.
yeah, we're already looking a year off. I think you're going to hear a lot more about Bixby and AI then. I mean, there's, we're reaching a fevered pitch with that. Thank you for the follow. Welcome in, IE76. Happy to have you here. We're in the middle of a tech talk.
That's a great number,
we
by
do
the way.
every night around this time. This is a 24/7 stream. You're welcome to join, play video games alongside other folks. Hello, Blacksmith. Thank you for popping in at this time for Tech Talk happens here on this channel throughout the day. This is just a focused time specifically to, like, this is what we're doing. Video gameplay happens throughout the day. People programming, people developing, sharing screens, that happens throughout the day and night, 24/7. So it's not just the time that we're focused on this particular this particular set of news. Next bit of news: Instagram's co-founders' personalized news app Artifact launches to the public with new features. I downloaded it. I do like keeping up with the news, and hadn't been happy with Google News as an app in general, and was just kind of curious about trying something different. And it's clean. It's free on iOS. I don't even think you need to register. It's free on iOS and Android. Clean at this point. And the idea is that it would customize the feed as based upon what it was that you were engaging with and looking for. If I had one negative thing to say about it, is you can't change the default browser behavior to launch in your default browser, which is a concern of mine because it was a concern. I have native ad blocking on Samsung internet browser, which you could use on and other Android devices, not just Samsung devices. So if I can't launch, if I have to use the default web browser experience on any app, then ads don't necessarily always get blocked. But then I on at least on our home network, I've set up so all the devices connected to the network don't see ads that they would normally see. So everyone's experience got better on the home network, whether or not they knew it. It was better because there's less tracking that's happening. I don't know if that's like massive bandwidth savings, but if nothing else, it's just something that I try to navigate around. So those third-party news apps, that's always been my chief concern with them. But we'll see. I'll keep it there for now. I don't have like a dedicated. I keep my folders organized. I don't have a dedicated news folder because I don't use news apps, so to speak. I used to use Flipboard. I used to really enjoy Flipboard a lot, just to see kind of what was going on. I have used in the past Google News, though I did stop using it. I may start using it again because now I can block on the network. I like feed readers, although I haven't found an outstanding one for Android, unfortunately. The name of this is, if you look in tech news on Discord, that's where you're going to find all the links for everything. On Android or iOS, I think the article links off to it, or should. This is what the icon. I'll just link. I'll pop the link there in chat for you. But it's all these are. I'm basically pulling them all from Discord. Mike posted this link from Bleeping Computer. Oh, page not found. Never mind. Well, that was a 404, Mike. Well, the headline that was pulled in was hackers use fake chat GPT apps to push Windows and Android malware. I noticed something today as I not that, but I noticed when I was browsing for something on in the Google Play Store, and a chat GPT app came up, and like, I'm like, well, it looks official, and maybe they're using the API, but I think ChatGPT has a native app. So do not install ChatGPT apps anywhere. I've warned Diana about this. She tends to download anything and everything. Diana? I don't want to talk about her without the benefit of her hearing or knowing this, but we've had this conversation. Don't install apps willy-nilly. Oh, that's a cute app. Don't. Stop. This is how malware spreads. This is how you compromise accounts. So, yeah, see, Diana's installing now.
Installing now.
Yeah. So everyone, I tell her, I'm like, Diana, I gotta look through this. You can't do that. You can't install this, that. You just can't. Even when you buy apps, you can't count on them. Stop. Stop it.
Stop it.
There. Did you hear Arnold Schwarzenegger telling you to stop it? He's telling you to stop it.
You know, when we're talking about the AI stuff too, it's what I'm really interested in seeing too is like there's such huge strides on the robotics end of things too, and when that's marrying up with AI, like when will we start to like I want C3PO vacuuming my rug at home, you know, that kind of.
I'd rather have C3PO than a Cylon, that's for sure.
Yes. Yeah, you don't want the Cylon.
No.
But you know what I mean,
Bracket
like
numbers.
that stuff is coming and that's married together, right? So to see, you know, right now when you see the eye-popping stuff online of what they're doing in the military, it won't be long before that kind of stuff carries into applications that are affordable for home users to do some of this, you know, heavy lifting work or whatever around the house, or, you know, because you know, I was, you know, mentioning too, like a lot of people will even downsize when they retire, you know, because they don't want to have like a house like I have. Like there's 3 levels, right? I have the basement done over, and then there's the main level and that. So, you know, I've talked to Lisa before, and I'm like, well, you know, there's these cool elevator things and stuff. Like if we can't do the stairs anymore, and now I'm just like, a robot's just going to carry me to bed by the time it happens, right? Take me in your arms and take me to bed, please. Thank you. So we won't have to downsize the house. Don't worry about that.
Speaking of downsizing, if Diana is still listening, you need to uninstall half of the apps that you have installed on your phone. Half, because I'm telling you, it's like she installs games that I know she sees a game icon, ooh, and then I'm like, don't do this. Don't do this. This stresses me out so much. It stresses me out so much. Because this is how compromises happen. You know, people don't see these smartphones as computers, but they're every bit a computer as a computer.
Yep.
You can install the wrong app and that's it. Game over. You've lost your accounts. You're going to wonder, you're like, why can't I get into this? Why doesn't this work anymore? I'm like, what?
I'm surprised at how good they've kept up with, like, you know, vetting stuff coming into the app stores as well as they've done.
They've done it well enough, and there's Google has a scanner, right? The app, I mean, but I think that's I'm not going to say it's a false level of security, right? But I do think it's security theater.
Yeah.
By and large, like
it could be, definitely.
You know, it doesn't go far enough. That ultimately, there's a reason I don't install a lot of apps. There's just a reason I won't, right? And the problem isn't that, well, she's got a different phone. Like, well, but it doesn't matter. Even if she's on a different network, if we have family accounts that she's getting into, where do you think compromises happen?
Don't think not having that either. Like if your browser has some sort of, vulnerability, and you go to the wrong,
wrong anything.
Well, right? Even if you don't go to a wrong site, if a site gets compromised out there, right? You might be going to a legitimate site that gets compromised. Like you're not 100% safe on anything other than when you power the device down, then you're safe. Right? But you certainly close the gap and keep it pretty tighter when you're doing as you say, which is kind of a good practice, right? Is just install what you really use.
Just install what you use, install what you need, keep everything else out and off your phone. Mm-hmm. Period. End of story. And computer. Like otherwise it's a problem. It's a big problem. There's a reason I have
with that on the mobile. I don't carry a lot of apps either on my mobile because I don't
game
really on it or nothing, right?
That's what I'm saying. Like I mean I know, like, okay, is this the right app? Is this am I getting the right official one? Is this something that I need to install? I'm very careful. Even on the Mac, people ask, like, or Windows. I'm like, I don't install a lot of that stuff. I don't. It's an easy way. It's a straightforward way of decreasing your vulnerability footprint. I mean, it's huge. All right, we've tapped out on news. If Glendon wants to, and I probably should pull this up again. Going to dive into some of the tech deals here.
Yeah, I've got a couple.
Yeah, give me a second. Let me get that loaded on my end. I closed it down thinking, okay, we've done all the tech news that we've loaded in.
Yeah, I almost forgot myself.
The sale. If you look in the sales deals discounts in or on Discord, then you're going to see the channel that's going to be that's the channel where all these deals are coming from. So let me go ahead and pull in that window, which has got different settings because I use a different browser when I manage the Amazon stuff, because we've got an affiliate program. So if you buy anything through Amazon at any point in time, if you could use our affiliate links, it would be supremely appreciated, because we might make $1 or $2, and that helps. Just like subs and gifted subs and cheers and tips, all of that adds up. All of it adds up. It's all extremely appreciated. So thank you for all the support that you give anywhere and everywhere that you give it. It's awesome. All right, so I've got Amazon pulled up. What's our first? Which one do you want to tackle first?
Okay, I'll start at the top.
Okay.
The first one is the Razer Viper Ultimate Hyperspeed lightweight wireless gaming mouse and charging dock. The reason this is on sale is they just brought out a different version of it, but this is still a great mouse. I have one myself. 49% off. I'm sorry, 45.
Yeah, so it dropped to 45.
Yeah, it dropped. It's 45% off. Total is a little over $81 now. I mean, and you get the dock with it, which normally you don't get, but they're trying to move this stock. You can get this version, the black or the white, for this unbelievable price. I may get one as a spare, just to be honest with you, to have a second one around just in case the first one dies. But
I'm so used to the Magic Mouse that I don't know if I'd see that much of a difference on Mac OS with this.
Well, I use it on Mac OS, and it's been smooth sailing, and it's Bluetooth or 2.4 gigahertz wireless. So I have it set up on the PC with the 2.4 gigahertz wireless, and then on the Mac, I have it on Bluetooth, so I can just flip a switch and use the same mouse on both systems.
Yep, that makes sense.
Kind of like a KVM.
Yep, yeah, I found a cheat code.
Yeah.
So that's what I do with the keyboard and the mouse. Now that I've got both, I forgot that they both have wireless or Bluetooth.
I have not used a wheel in ages. It would just seem like going from a flat surface like that. And honestly, the Magic Mouse for me has been.
And I'm the total opposite. I could never get
There's
used
no
to that
way I could give away my wheel.
I've tried, and trust me, I've used them for a while, and I'm like, I hate this thing.
Honestly,
it's a matter of preference, right? It's just
Chris is the only person that has ever said that they like the wireless, the Magic Mouse that I have talked to so far.
It's clean, it's simple, it's straightforward.
I'll give you the aesthetics. I love the look of it.
But that's the thing, is like if I found a mouse that had an impact on like when I drag the window around, right, I can see the refresh rate. I can see it, like it's super smooth. But like if that also was improved by the refresh rate of the mouse, right, and I could see that palpably, then and the cursor specifically, then that would like I say, yeah, I've got to switch. I would have to get used to something else.
Yeah. If
I knew that was something, but I'm not. I don't know. I don't know if I'm necessarily ready to. That's not something that bothers me all that much. So I'm not like, aiming to flip that.
How
switch.
often do you have to charge yours, Chris, or do you just have the habit of plugging it in?
Yeah,
you're not using
I had the problem the other day. That's when I learned that one of my USB cable that I usually use for charging the Lightning devices was unplugged. I didn't realize that. Otherwise, I had charged it overnight. I usually do it when it says, "Oh, the battery's getting low," and then if I remember, if I'm getting up to walk away from the computer for a while, I'll plug it in into an extra cable and then let it go from there. But yeah, I mean, it's usually it's inconsequential, for at least charging or recharging. All right, staying within the Razer family. I don't have a link.
Yeah, I'm getting it right here. I just realized that I didn't post the link actually, so I'm going to put it in chat.
It's okay. Oh, you're gonna put it in chat?
Yeah, well, I'll put it in Discord real quick. Is what I meant. I can just update it.
It's fine.
Give me just a second.
It's the Razer Barracuda wireless gaming and mobile headset.
Yep, I've already got the link here.
No worries. I just drag and drop things like from one. Oh,
Right.
Thank you.
There we go. So yeah, staying in the Razer family, this is another really good deal. This is normally $135 headset. It's on sale for $94.98. It's one of their top tiers. The Barracuda is. It's a 2.4 gigahertz wireless headset. So you can use it on Android, PlayStation, PC. It also has Bluetooth, so you could use it on the Switch as well. For this price, that's a steal. I mean, some people may say $100 is a little steep, but you're saving a substantial amount of money here. 29% off. You save $40, and for a nice noise canceling Bluetooth and wireless solution, you really can't go wrong with this if you're out there in the market looking for a headset.
Evermedia live gamer capture card.
Yeah, that was posted by Thomas.
Okay.
So I don't have it. He's got the link in there for it.
The link is there. Yep. 30% off.
Yep. Let me pull it up here. Sorry, it's being a little
no, it's okay. So it's an external capture card.
Yep.
Record gameplay, 1080p 60, HDMI pass through. All right. So HDMI external, uses USB 2, micro USB, of course. So not 4K.
No, it's just
FYI.
1080 60.
But there is 4K 30 ultra low latency as well. There is an option for that capture card as well.
Yes.
And that would use, I'd assume like a 3.1, a USB 3.
Right.
And it is. HDMI 2.0, not 2.1. But that's 34% off. So that's a pretty good deal too. So Avermedia must be doing some kind of deals there.
Yeah, no, that's a good deal as well for sure.
So moving on
that are on the arcade, wanting to use a capture card and play some retro games, this is a good way to do it.
Do it. Do you have to charge from the bottom for the Magic Mouse? Yes, you do. Unfortunately, it's like right there. It sucks, but yeah, I mean, you don't charge all that much. It's just I feel like they could have done a better job with that. Maybe the next iteration of the Magic Mouse, whenever they get around to it, maybe it'll be different. I'm sure there will be one. It's at some point in the future. I just don't know what it's going to be or when it's going to be. I'm glad they finally had a black wireless keyboard and a black Magic Mouse though. That was something I looked forward to for years. All right, so we've got a series of Intel Core i7 processors.
Yeah, there's a caveat. The other two are no longer on sale. I did this the other day, so I'm going to go ahead and take those off. The one that still is on sale is the 11700K. If everybody wants to take a look at that, that's tuning in with us. Excuse me. Again, this is a 2-generation old processor, but look at what you're getting for $245. It's an 8-core unlocked, turbos up to 5 gigahertz, and it's a 125 watt processor. And this is $245. So if you're out there and you're wanting to get into gaming and you're on a budget, this is a heck of a processor to get started with.
That's Tiger Lake, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep, the same thing that you're running in your Nook.
Yeah, my Nook that's the PC I've been running for a couple years now.
Yeah, and would you say it's still ample for sure?
Oh yeah, I mean, would I want a faster one? Sure.
Right.
But am I feeling a pinch? No, let me put it this way. I'm recording, I'm streaming, I'm able to handle like a lot of the multitasking, but OBS right now at 30 FPS, 1080p is at the CPU is currently at doing a live capture of the window at 0.6% CPU.
Right. Yeah.
So it is more than ample for a lot of, I mean, certainly 1080p gaming.
Oh yeah, for sure. Even in games that may be CPU intensive, you're still going to be fine with these 8 cores. So again, if you're looking to build a budget PC, this LGA 1200 is still a very viable processor and can serve you well. So $245 in my opinion is a steal.
Okay, so is Grand Theft Auto, okay, GRB posted this. This is his deal. The deal. Oh, yep, sure. It's okay. Are you 17 plus?
Me?
It's Grand Theft Auto 5.
No, I'm not.
So currently 50% off in the the Epic Game Store. It is just Windows. Some of their stuff is Windows and Mac. And by the way, today is Wednesday, so tomorrow there's a new free game for Epic downloads. Just FYI, I try to update on Discord for when there is a free redeem code that I find somewhere. I will update it, or try to remember to update it in the free redeem codes section of Discord and tag. I think free redeem codes is a reaction role in Discord as well. I don't see a lot of them, but it's a nice courtesy for everybody. Especially if you want to be playing these games live on give me an excuse. Get the games for free, then play them for free on the live stream here. It'd be great to see you. So 50% off. That's a pretty good discount. Pretty good deal. Pretty good discount. So I feel that that takes us through again about 2 hours. This is seemingly, I don't know. We always seem to find things to talk about. Pack those hours full of geeky goodness. Anything else y'all want to cover before we wrap up, or as we wrap up?
Not from me. See, Noop. I think he's muted.
He's muted.
Yeah.
I can't mute you. Muted yourself because I can't unmute you.
Yes, I muted myself.
Very
Sorry.
It's
Okay.
all right.
I was trying to get the dog out of here. That's why I ran up, because he was trying to go, and I was like, I don't want him yelping, and then I forgot to take it off mute when I came back here. No, I think it's a good place to stop here. There's nothing really more that if you get me going now, I'll be talking until all hours in the morning. So,
well, we may be wrapping it up for now, for at least the recording and the archiving, but that does not mean that we have to stop talking about this, that, or the other thing, or certainly playing games, because the live stream continues 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at live.pirillo.com. We'll see you later.